Mhm. All right, everyone. Good evening. This is the voice on the face of Dr. Lope Labinto. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Living Spring Family Medical Center here in the beautiful city of Mansfield, Texas, where we believe in helping our patients live long and well because we believe the quality of life is just as important as the quantity of life. I'm really excited today to be on here to talk about another topic that helps improve quality of life, and that's unlocking the secrets of intimacy. For those of you who are watching live, hashtag live. Those who are watching replay, hashtag replay. And for some of you who are watching who are like, hey, why are we having this conversation? Um, the truth is, studies have shown, let me see, why is this not working? Studies have shown that when you have a good marriage, you're most likely um, to live well. And so why not go ahead and have this discussion? Give me 1 second. For whatever reason, it's not streaming live to Facebook. What's going on? So let's see. Remove, and then re-add. Give me 1 second. Save changes. I'm like, Facebook, your timing is really off. I'm already live right now. All right, so let me see, make sure we're okay, we're streaming. That's been fixed. Let me do this one, and we should be good to go. Save changes. Let's add it back. I'm glad I know how to do this pretty quickly. Otherwise, okay. Ooh, what a journey. Okay, so we should be streaming live on all platforms right now. Okay, very good. So, like I was saying, why are we having this conversation? Well, studies have shown that actually those who stay married, those who have companionship, studies show that they actually live longer and they have a better quality of life. That's the fact. I'm not making it up. I'm not saying everyone has to get married, but that's what the data shows. And of course, we don't want just you know um you know we want the marriage to thrive. We want the marriage to not be endured but to be enjoyed. And so I'm really excited to have our guest come on and talk about unlocking the secrets of intimacy. So our guest, I can see her backstage, so ooh, so excited. So I'm gonna bring her back up. Oh my god. For those of you who are watching, hashtag live and hashtag replay if you're watching replay. Hi, Dr. Stockwell. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm so excited and honored to be a guest on your show.
I am excited to have you on here. I've been a big fan. I'm a little bit of a lurker, so I do see your posts. I do heart them every so often. So thank you for what you do. And I was just talking about you and why we're doing this, but please kindly introduce yourself to our viewers. Who are you, Doc, and what do you do?
Okay, well, thank you. I do many things, including homeschool my kids. So I came running in to join you here for this. But I am a physician, a relationship and intimacy coach, and an intimate marriage expert. And I'm really devoted to showing couples how to have beautiful, meaningful, sensually gratifying relationships.
Why do you do what you do? And I know you're like what got you? And wait, what, like, hats off to homeschooling the kids, but I'm gonna try to focus on what we're talking about here. Why do you do what you do, Doc?
Okay, I love the question. And the answer is that, well, my parents were divorced when I was 9, my husband's parents when he was 6. And so going into marriage, I didn't have any big illusions that we were definitely going to be this amazing, successful couple. We were in love, but I didn't have assumptions. And
Hmm.
during the first 10 years of our marriage, we met the first week of medical school. So we were medical students, we were in training. We had 2 children. I had my first baby j- um, just after my 3rd year of medical school, my second just before my internship. And so during those 10 years, what I'm wanting to say is that we were very busy working, I don't know, 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week. And I always assumed that once we had more time together, all the romance and the intimacy and the sensuality and the sexuality brighten up because we were best friends and
Mm,
really loved one another and lived life in a very collaborative way. And I just thought we needed more time. And then we have our weekends mostly off, our evenings free, no babies in diapers. We have the time, and come to find out, our sex has always been good. It was functional, but it was nothing like what the poets write about.
mm,
And I realized it wasn't just a matter of having time with one another, which I think is a common misconception that many people have. And so I really wanted to crack the code. I wanted to provide a model for my 4 children of what a really happy relationship looks
mm,
like.
mm,
And I also wanted to enjoy myself with my husband and vice versa. So I ended up doing a very in-depth training. It was just really in depth on sex and intimacy for myself and my marriage, but it doubled as a coach training. And at the time, I didn't even know what a coach was. That's not why I enrolled. But I was
mm.
very fascinated how one would teach people to facilitate these kinds of changes. So I went to the teaching lab and I just knew I'd come home. So
Okay.
that's what I've been doing ever since.
Wow. And I had a few patients, kind of like, hey doc, why are we having this conversation? Like, why are you doing this topic? And I have seen it come up in conversation a lot of times indirectly as a stressor.
Yes.
And typically the question is, tell me about your support system, or what are your outlets for stress relief, or do you have, and so the conversation then leads to, we're just there. Yeah, there's my husband. Is like just there's my husband, or there's my wife. I don't feel like, I don't know, like, kids are out of the house. We're not able to, and so this was a very very big topic that has not gain as much spotlight. Of course, it's a little taboo, but we're gonna have this conversation. So, for the sake of definition,
I
Doc,
just want to say something in response to that, if I may, that one of the things about functioning, good relationships
right?
is that people think they don't actually need a lot of attention. If you have children who, even if they're healthy and well, they need attention when it comes to working out or eating right or building a business or career, really any of the important elements in life. We know that they don't just take care of themselves, that we need to put attention on. It doesn't mean anything needs 100% of our attention 100% of the time, but we do need to invest time and attention in order for the best outcomes, for the best, for our children to thrive, for our careers to thrive, for our home to be clean. We can't take our attention off for too long. And
Right.
for whatever reason, we don't need to get into the history. I don't know that anyone really can account for this well, but we tend to think that in the realm of intimacy and deeper emotional connection and how we touch one another doesn't need the same level of care and attention. And the main time that people give it is when things are really challenging.
Mm,
And I think one of the times that a person is most likely to really deeply consider their values and priorities when it comes to marriage and intimate relationships is when they're going through a divorce, and soon after it like wakes someone up to think, this really needs more intention and attention, and I'm interested in guiding people to do that long before such a crisis occurs.
mm, mm, mm. Now you mentioned something, and I'm going to segue into this. You said attention. Now, one of the things that has been a kind of a tough one to broker is, well, I don't need attention, but there's a longing for attention, but he should know. And it's like well, I don't, I'm not a kid. I don't want to ask for attention. Like, how do you even begin to have that conversation or encourage that conversation between two couples when it's, I need attention, I'm crying for attention, but I will not tell you I need attention?
I really love how you've asked that question. And I'm going to start answering by differentiating between being a child and being an adult, emotionally speaking. And when we are children, we get to hope. I mean, when we're babies, we don't have the capacity to ask for what we want. When all goes well, our parents anticipate it without our asking, particularly. And the thing is that if, as grown women, particularly, or grown men, really, um, we don't want to ask for what we want and need, then we are counting on our partner being clairvoyant, having X-ray vision, and that is really a fallacy. Our partners do not have the capacity to see beneath our skin and into our minds in that way, and yet resentful, and our feelings are hurt when they don't act as though they know all the things, that there's only one way for them to know, and that is for us to say it. However, I want to make sure to address how we say it,
Mm,
because I don't mean that people should go around giving their spouses report cards, either literally or metaphorically. Not at all. If I want something, it is my job to ask for it in a way that it feels good to give it to me.
mm,
Not that I ask for it in a way that my partner feels attacked or like they've been doing a bad job or blamed or any of that. This is really a very vulnerable, essential, collaborative kind of conversation to have. And when I think of the definition of intimacy, I really think of it as the act of, it's a courageous act of revealing oneself to one's partner. And the good news is that you can take micro miniature baby steps and
mm.
make significant progress. You do not need to jump in at the deep end. You can just start by saying, I'd love if you told me my hair looks good today. Don't you think it does? You know, it'd be very easy for someone to say, "Yeah, honey, it does." Like, make it easy. And that takes a lot of emotional maturity to speak in that
Mm,
way.
this is deep. You're encouraging vulnerability. And one of sometimes the backlash I get sometimes from men, I'm not trying to classify all men as the same. It's, well, she should know I love her. She should know, like what, and what you're emphasizing here is asking for what you need and being vulnerable and wanting to create that space by being the first to go ahead and ask, like, hey, I miss you hugging me, or I like when you hug me, could you do that again? And um we get to gain a lot from it, and I think it's worth the sacrifice of ego. I don't know how else to explain
Yes,
it.
yes, it is, and you modeled that magnificently. You didn't say, for example, "I wish you'd hug me more." You said, "When you hug me, it feels good. I'd like you to do it more." Like, that's a much more inspiring thing that someone's gonna be motivated to hug you. The first, it's like, "Okay, let me feel rejected and put down and find my ability to move all that out of the way and then hug her." No, that
Mm,
isn't work that you should make your partner do. And another thing that I thought of while you were speaking is it's actually something that I write about in my book, that when people start speaking, it's very easy, at least conceptually, to fall into the trap of thinking that brutal honesty is the way to go, and it never
mm,
is. Vulnerable honesty is a whole other experience that really serves to deepen the emotional connection, and that in turn paves the way for more sensual connection and pleasure.
I love it. Vulnerable honesty versus brutal honesty, where the agenda is to bring intimacy, not to say you suck. Okay. All right. Awesome. Now, now I have a question from a viewer, and they're
Yes, right.
saying, do you think your spouse of 30 years should be able to know what we're needing emotionally without speaking it? Now, the emphasis here is on looks like the years, like we've been together 30 years. Shouldn't you know by now? How do you how do you address that, Doc?
Okay, I love the question, and I imagine it's a vulnerable question to ask. So thank you for asking so we all can benefit. And I'm going to start way back at the beginning, whether it's 30 years, 5 years, however long a couple's been together. Typically, the experience of being in love includes feeling so curious about the other person. Where is that scar from? And if this weren't your profession, what would you like to do? And what did what was your second grade teacher's name? Like, we just have so much curiosity about one another. And then comes the gift of safety, security, familiarity. It's wonderful to be able to feel comfortable with one another. But the problem is if that comes at the cost of curiosity. So when I hear about a couple that's been married for 30 years, it's very easy to fall into the trap of thinking, well, we know one another so well. But each of you has continued to grow and evolve in all kinds of ways during those 30 years you've been together. And the question is, are you bringing that growth into the relationship so it can grow with you? Or is that growth happening outside? So you might have wanted your husband. This is a common occurrence. I don't know if this applies to the person who asked the question or not, but often early in a marriage, especially in a heteronormative marriage with a very modest, humble woman, the husband will give her compliments. You look gorgeous. And wow, turn around. Let me see how that looks. And that is uncomfortable, embarrassing, and she will deflect it and essentially train him
To know.
by to not give her compliments because it's uncomfortable to have that attention and it's unusual. Obviously not for all women, but this is a plausible scenario. So then fast forward 20 years, 30 years, she's a more empowered, more mature woman. I mean, if someone's been married for 30 years, they're somewhere between 50 and 70 years old. She knows how to move through life, let's say. She's been respected in her career. And yes, she can handle the attention that comes with compliments. And now her feelings are hurt because her husband isn't actually paying attention and expressing compliments. But very often, as women, we've created that
Hmm.
based on our discomfort in receiving it initially. So, my answer to you who asked the question is you could, I mean, it depends on the marriage, but one option is ask your spouse to go on a first date and get to know one another anew and see what is familiar that you share in a new way and what new aspects of your personality and preferences and desires and dreams do you want to share that have just never come up because the culture of your marriage didn't include opportunities.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
the bottom line is 30 years is not too late, not by a long shot, not if you're both capable of curiosity and growth.
I love it. I love it. This is good. This is good. Stay curious is intentional. Now, Doc, I have a question. I have someone here who's like, oof, I'm a little worried about being the one to start the conversation because I'm afraid of rejection. And this is someone who's probably married decades, but both are living like housemates, their roommates, and hey, what do you want? That's good, thanks. Nothing. How would you encourage someone who's watching who's like, I don't know, I'm a little afraid I may get rejected if I am vulnerable. Are there any tips, mindset hacks to
Absolutely.
encourage them to take it on?
Absolutely. And the way you were asking the question, I wasn't really sure if you meant emotional vulnerability or something more in the bedroom, and you don't even need to answer because what I'm about to say applies to both
Well, awesome.
scenarios.
Awesome.
So, like, basically, this is for the person listening who just wants more aliveness in the relationship in whatever realm it is, and it might be many realms. The way to start such a conversation is gently
Mm.
and respectfully. And one of the best ways is to start by sharing memories of wonderful times you've had together. Whether it was when you went on that hike when you were both in your 30s, or how amazing it was to bring the second baby home from the hospital, or, you know, whatever it is. It could be that time you made lasagna and you used uh, chili pepper instead of paprika, and we were laughing so hard. Like, just to start talking about tender experiences together that you'll both be familiar with. And if this is to turn up the heat a bit in the bedroom and you're comfortable, then you can talk about more bedroom like memories, but you don't need to. Even if that's your goal, just start by there's a vulnerability in acknowledging how special an experience was. And anyway, the thing that makes it vulnerable is how you say it. And that just opens up the communication lines, and you can just gently expand from there.
Man, we're gonna do a part two because we only scratched the surface and it's 7 o'clock. Okay, so my next question, we want simple tips. So I have someone who's watching, like, okay, I hear you, doc. I'm looking forward to investing in my relationship by taking some of the things you said and practicing it. But I need more tips. So what are simple yet effective ways to keep the romance alive in a long-term marriage? Like we're like, yeah, we're familiar with each other, like, I love you, blah, blah, blah. What would you say?
Okay, well, no matter how much romance there is, the way to bring more is actually not to start asking for more romance. I mean, unless that's something comfortable in your marriage to do, but it's actually to start with curiosity. I know we've talked about it, but I want to say more about it because it really is a kind of lubricant for connection. And the way
Nice
this
pun. It
works,
was good.
thank you. The way this works is that you can ask whatever question is most comfortable that you're genuinely interested in the answer. So it can be something whimsical, it can be serious, it can be romantic. I mean, it can be anything. So if you could have dinner with any celebrity alive or dead, who would it be and what would you ask them? If we were to live somewhere else, where would you want to live and what kind of home would you desire? I mean, really, if you were a superhero, which one would you want to be? What I'm trying to say is that it doesn't matter what kind of question it is. It just matters. It's a it's a simple way to bring attention and invite freshness into your conversation. And I once gave a talk. This was a number of years ago, and there was a woman who wanted to hear the talk after mine. She was clear her marriage of I think 32 years was strong and healthy. She didn't need to hear my talk, but meanwhile she was there, so she paid attention. And she went home and asked her husband some questions, and she contacted me the next day. She said it was astounding. She just asked a few questions, and they felt more intimate than they had in 5 or 10 years, and they had a very special evening together, and it really just came from bringing attention to one another through curiosity. So I really can't I'm not exaggerating when I talk about the power of this, but I have a few more things to say as well.
Yes,
So,
please.
okay, so tip number 2, this is for men and women, but I'm going to talk about it particularly for women, and that is to get clear on what you desire. Because the only way that you can have what you want is if you know what you want. And so many women are so used to taking care of everybody else and all the things. And we naturally put our own needs and desires in the back seat and kind of forget they're there. And so if you're not sure what you desire or what you want more of, then feel free to make a list of the things that you'd complain about. Even if you're not actually a whiner and a complainer, if you write down your complaints, hidden in every complaint
Oh, good.
is a genuine desire that's worth actually pursuing. So if your complaint is that my husband never pays attention to me and you don't know what you want, well, what you want is for him to listen with more interest or to look at you while you speak or whatever it is. So if someone just doesn't know what they want, which is a very common phenomenon. I mean, like, sure, we want our house clean or the grocery shopping done, but I mean like a real soul desire or body desire, something that's personal. It's totally fine to start with the complaints, not necessarily to convey them to your husband, but to use that to point you towards the
Mm,
desire, which is camouflaged in that complaint.
I like that.
And then the third thing is that the research is very clear. I'm going to say something about sex, but it won't be too explicit, if that's okay. And
Thank you.
okay, so the research is very clear. One of the best positive predictors, one of the only positive predictors for having a happy, long-lasting, sexually satisfying marriage is talking with your spouse about your experiences in the bedroom. Of couples who report being really genuinely happy and fulfilled in all of the marital areas, only 9% say that they never discuss it. So that doesn't mean talking like an erotica author. It doesn't mean talking like you're writing a XXX movie script. Not at all. You can have very genteel conversations that are a lot like talking about the weather. For example, I like things when they're softer. That qualifies as a conversation about sex. It doesn't, it, as long as you both know what you're talking about, it can be a very discreet, genteel conversation. But for everyone who may have forgotten, when two people are together in a marriage, they have different bodies and they have no way to know what the
Mm,
other person is experiencing. You can get familiar with like patterns in your spouse, but you don't really know unless there's some communication. And it needs to go beyond, are you happy? But more like, do you like when it's softer or harder, slower or faster?
yeah.
These are conversations that once you practice, they won't be complicated because everything about having a fantastic relationship is a learnable skill. So, yeah, it's outside one's comfort zone if one isn't already doing this, but
Mm,
it's not, it doesn't need to be intense. It can be super gentle. And even if you want to start, you want to go with number 3 and start these conversations, start with some wonderful memories of just sharing them out loud when, for example, you were holding hands together, walking down, I don't know, the streets in Paris or wherever it is, just to call attention to the positive experiences your souls and bodies have had together. And then you can build from there. You don't need to cover it all in one conversation.
I love it. This is really really good, and I'm glad we're having these conversations because um, I'm of the opinion too that there's no point wasting each other's the opportunity of living with somebody at the expense of how embarrassed you would feel is worth taking that chance so you can improve your quality of life together as a couple, right?
Totally.
um
And by the way, that's a great introduction to say to your spouse, I want to bring up a topic that you and I have never talked about. And
Mm,
the reason I'm bringing it up is because I think it will contribute to both of us having a more fulfilling life. Like, be clear why, because actually, if you don't start that way, any normal person is going to be waiting for what the problem is.
right.
And I'm not talking about bringing up problems, I'm talking about pursuing enhancements, improvements, and more connection. So let your partner know that what you just said is exactly why the conversation is happening. And what I thought we might get into, but we haven't, but I'm just going to throw it in, is that, all the blue zone studies and longevity, relationships
Yes.
are not typically a part of healthcare, but in a way they should be. Like, we're talking about the juicy stuff, and I have yet to know anybody who's motivated to improve their relationship and their sex life in order to enhance longevity, but it does function that
It
way.
does. It does. Studies have shown that those who are actually married live longer, like good marriage, though. Like they
Yes.
live, like studies are showing that. So, you're in it, might as well enjoy it. That's the mindset. We have to do a part two because
Okay, good.
701. But Doc, last few words. I have someone who's watching who's like, but you don't know the man I'm married to. You don't know my wife. You were married 35 years, but I don't know this is possible for us. Any words of encouragement as we wrap up?
Well, based on my experience, you don't know what's possible until you've tried it well.
Try it well. Ooh, that's deep.
I have seen
Try it well.
I have just seen too much transformation. I'm not a Pollyanna, but when you do things well, the results are amazing. So, for the person who's asking that question, I highly suggest starting with every single day finding something to be grateful for that you can acknowledge out loud to your spouse. Even if they're a self centered, unattentive, complicated person, every single day, just state something that you're grateful for, that they bring to your life, or they help with the household or something, and wait and see what happens.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Stockwell. I'm going. I mean, I put you on the spot already. We're going to do a part two to this, so I will send you a link so we can schedule the one for sometime in the new year. But for those of you who are watching, I didn't even get to really shout you out. I mean, you're a best-selling author. You've been featured in the Huffington Post, Rolling Stone, USA Today, Cosmopolitan. You're a big deal, Doc. Um, I didn't I didn't get to do you justice as far as the intro, but I really appreciate you taking your time to come here and share with my audience a wealth of information. I've picked up tips as well, also to help improve the quality of my marriage. So thank you so much. And I have people who are watching like, where can we find this doctor? I want to have her come talk to my group, my people. They want to connect with you. They want to see what you're about, maybe learn. I know you have a podcast as well, but Doc, where can people find you?
Okay, well, thank you. I love connecting with people. So, since we're here on Facebook, I do want to say that I have a Facebook group. Maybe we could just put the link in the
Okay.
below. We'll do that afterwards. But it's the Intimate Marriage Facebook group. And otherwise, find me at alexandrastockwell.com. From there, you can download the first chapter of my book for free, get my book, find my podcast, the Intimate Marriage Podcast, and I'm on all social media and so forth. But yeah, alexandrastockwell.com is a good place to start. And since you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and join my Facebook group, which is the Intimate Marriage Facebook group.
All right, awesome, awesome. I've put that information for those of you who are watching on YouTube and on Facebook at the bottom of the screen. And she's all over the web. She's on Instagram, she's on LinkedIn, she's on Facebook, she's on TikTok. Ooh,
I
you
don't
on
do
the
that much
TikTok.
there. I will eventually, but I'm not there that much.
All right, I'm going to share all of this. This has been amazing. I had so much fun having a conversation with you, Doc. Man, you would think I've known you forever. But I appreciate you. I appreciate you doing this. Thank you so, so much, Doc. And I'm putting all your information right at the bottom of the screen so people can connect with you right there. Those of you take notes, follow her. She has a lot of beautiful information she puts out. Thanks again, Doc. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, this was good. Ladies, this was good. As you know, caring is sharing. So, do you know a couple that could use this? Forward it to them. Send them the link. Tag them in the comments. They will thank you for it because you improved the quality of their marriage, and so as such, the quality of their life. And thank you for watching. And as always, if you or anyone you know is looking for an awesome, a thorough, and a passionate family physician who will have conversations like this to help you live long and well, I am she. I'm going to text you. Thank you so much. Bye.